So I'm going to tell you a little Hindu secret. The fundamentalist religion is actually an appropriation of agriculture. So agriculture would be a demand economy, which means it sedates the user basis to allow for extra extrapolations from a resource basin. So basins aren't free. Basins come from land, and land is a material well for undermining capital. So if capital is a asset, that means you have to negate the declaration of your aperture and denounce the ability to forfeit assets. So assets aren't a land holding right here. It is actually the denial of assets. So if the denial of assets occurs under capitalism, not only does the inversion of revolutionary theory happen, that means assets are grabbed for the state. States own lands in capitalism. So if a state capitalist entity begins to expand, not only does the budget constraints widen, the ability to forfeit loses all degradation of its aperture, which means it encloses itself. This enclosure is a method for undermining the ability to seize other people's property. So if a asset is mineralized, not only does the nature of a consequence irradiate into a linguistic is miniaturized for material access to Copernican theory. So Copernican theory is the ideal method of denouncing holding of titles. Because Copernicus theorized that the sun revolved around the orbits were actually miniaturized on a scale. And these scales were widened on ranges that do not forfeit but actually shelter the model. So modeling would be a feature of landholding, but modeling would also be the feature of slaveholding. So slaveholding in miniature states is actually a right to bear arms. So if bearing arms is to keep costs, which is the aperture and closing, not only does the bearing of arms allow for the forfeiting of assets, in socialism, assets are given back to the public.